Did you know that some of the taxes in the United States are so bizarre they sound like something out of a comedy sketch? From taxing candy to charging professionals for their job titles, these quirky taxes reveal a lot about how states prioritize their budgets and attempt to shape behavior. Today we're diving into the strangest taxes across the USA. Some will make you laugh, others might make you scratch your head, and a few might even make you downright angry. The U.S. tax system is enormous, covering everything from income and property to the most unusual items and activities. While taxes might seem like a mundane topic, these unusual examples prove that there's a story behind every dollar collected. Let's start with something sweet, or not so sweet, depending on how you feel about paying extra for your favorite treats. Some states tax candy and soda while others don't. Take Illinois, for example, where candy is taxed at a higher rate than other groceries. But here's the twist. If the candy contains flour, like Kit Kats or Twix, it's considered a food item and taxed at a lower rate. The reasoning? Flour supposedly makes it more nutritious or closer to real food. So, in Illinois, buying a Snickers bar costs you more in taxes than a pack of Kit Kats. But why do these taxes even exist? It turns out they often have a hidden agenda. For example, taxes on sugary drinks and candy are sometimes called sin taxes. They're not just about collecting money, they're designed to discourage unhealthy eating habits. The logic is that higher prices might make people think twice before reaching for that extra soda or candy bar. Whether this actually works is up for debate, but it's a fascinating example of how governments use taxes to influence behavior. Speaking of influencing behavior, let's talk about taxes that aim to protect the environment. In some states, there are taxes specifically targeting pollution. Take California, which imposes fees on companies that emit greenhouse gases. These funds are then used to invest in renewable energy and other green initiatives. While it sounds like a noble idea, businesses often argue that these taxes increase costs, which are ultimately passed on to consumers. So, while the intention is to save the planet, it sometimes feels like regular people end up footing the bill. Now for a historical twist, did you know there was once a tax on beards in Russia? While not from the US, it's a fascinating example of how taxes can be used to enforce cultural norms. In the 1700s, Peter the Great introduced a beard tax to modernize Russian society and encourage men to adopt clean-shaven European styles. Men who wanted to keep their beards had to pay a fee and carry a token to prove they'd paid. While this might sound unrelated to the US, it highlights how taxes have historically been used to shape behavior, a practice that continues to this day. Now let's move from protecting the planet to protecting state budgets. One of the most surprising taxes I came across is the yacht tax in Minnesota. Yes, luxury boats, including yachts, are taxed at a 10% rate. The backstory? In the 1990s, Minnesota faced a significant budget shortfall. Someone suggested taxing high-end watercraft, and voila, a new tax was born. It was controversial from the start. Boaters argued it unfairly targeted a small group, while lawmakers praised it as a way to generate much-needed revenue. The debate still lingers, but there's no denying that the yacht tax brought in millions of dollars, helping the state weather its financial storm. From yachts we jump to professions. Imagine being taxed simply because of your job title. That's the reality in Alabama, where the occupational privilege tax is still in place. Lawyers, doctors, and even auctioneers have to pay this tax to fund regulatory agencies. While the logic seems straightforward, professionals should contribute to the systems that oversee their work. The tax has faced criticism for being an unnecessary burden. After all, most of these professionals are already paying state income taxes and licensing fees. It's one of those policies that raises eyebrows every time it's mentioned. Let's pivot to something less grim, but equally puzzling: taxes on pets. In some states, owning a pet means paying an annual tax. The justification is that these funds go toward animal control and shelter services. While pet owners might grumble about the extra cost, it's hard to argue against the idea of ensuring stray animals are cared for. However, some critics argue the tax isn't evenly enforced, leaving many pet owners wondering where their money is actually going. Here's another quirky tax with a noble aim. In some states, there's a tax on fireworks. For instance, Pennsylvania imposes a 12% tax on the sale of consumer fireworks. The reasoning? These funds are often allocated to support emergency services like firefighters and first responders. While this seems fair given the risks associated with fireworks, it's also sparked debate. Critics argue that many of these purchases are made by out-of-state residents or occasional users who end up footing the bill for statewide services they rarely use. Supporters, however, see it as a logical way to ensure public safety, especially during holidays like the 4th of July, when firework-related incidents spike. And if you thought taxing pets was odd, wait until you hear about the jock tax. This one's for professional athletes. If you play a game in a state where you don't live, you're required to pay taxes on the income you earned during that game. For example, if a baseball player from Florida, where there's no state income tax, plays a game in California, they owe California taxes on the income from that game. While it's meant to ensure fairness, the jock tax is incredibly complicated to calculate and has left many athletes frustrated with the system. Taxes can be surprisingly creative, even when they seem bizarre. Consider Maryland's rain tax. Yes, rain. The state imposes a fee on properties with large, impervious surfaces like driveways and parking lots, which contribute to water runoff and pollution. The funds are used for environmental cleanup efforts. While the intent is admirable, it earned the nickname rain tax and sparked significant backlash for its unusual approach to funding environmental programs. What's clear is that taxes often reflect the priorities and values of the communities that impose them. Whether it's discouraging unhealthy eating, funding education, or protecting the environment, these taxes tell a story. Sometimes, that story is about creative problem solving. Other times it's about bureaucratic overreach. Either way, they provide a fascinating glimpse into how governments operate. Winding down, these unusual taxes remind us that there's more to the tax system than meets the eye. They may seem quirky or unfair, but they often serve a purpose. Whether it's encouraging healthier lifestyles, protecting natural resources, or balancing state budgets. And while we might not always agree with them, these taxes show us how interconnected our choices and communities really are. If you've enjoyed this journey through the weird world of US taxes, make sure to subscribe to this channel. There's always more to learn, and I look forward to exploring it with you. Together, we'll uncover the surprising, the quirky, and the downright unbelievable. Thank you for watching. If you like this kind of content, just hit the subscribe button. See you in the next video.